I get questions. I got a question from a Patreon supporter. If you want to right now, you can click on the link below this video. You can support the existence of this channel for $1 a month. Less than the cost of a cup of coffee. People only say that when they're ripping you off. You notice that? You can save starving orphans in Africa for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. But it is true these days. Here in Victoria, you'd be lucky to get a cup of coffee for $2.50. I think the cheapest cup of coffee in Victoria is $1.70 now. But I digress. Anyway, I got a question from one of my Patreon supporters. Her name is Noelle. And, okay, I guess I might as well read this question in full. But for me, this touches on so many of the issues I try to deal with in this channel and issues I'm now dealing with in real life as I try to get back into real-life activism here in Canada. Before I was living in China, so my involvement with activism was largely limited to YouTube. So Noelle writes, quote, "What is your view on this comment I've received recently before getting blocked on Facebook by some vegan demanding that everyone defriend someone else based on their alleged view that gays/lesbians/transgenders should keep their sex issues separate from veganism in rallies." Okay? So rallies, I'm just noting, this is not about telling gay people to live in the closet. This is an argument for whether or not a vegan rally can be expressly vegan and not at the same time a gay rights rally, right? So I continue the quote. Quote, "I was told if veganism isn't intersectional, it's not veganism." Close quote. So the commenter, Noelle, the person who asked me this question, goes and say, in her opinion, issues such as child welfare, amnesty, I assume meaning amnesty for illegal immigrants, in human politics are separate issues and do not have veganism as part of their ideology. So why should vegans include some or all of these issues? All right. I remember a video I saw in Chinese from a vegan activist in Taiwan. And, she said, I think this is very true of Taiwan, she said the number one response she got to being challenged on vegan politics was to ask, why would you devote time and attention to this when there are these other human issues? There are human realm problems to be addressed in politics. In Taiwan, especially in Chinese, they use the word human in a way we don't really in English so often. It's partly because of actually the reform of Buddhism on the island of Taiwan. It became very popular to talk about human realm Buddhism, which is, say, Buddhism directed towards worldly affairs, real problems in the real world, as opposed to supernatural problems. So why aren't you directing your attention towards human problems? And this activist in Taiwan, her response was to say, the reality is the number of human problems to be addressed is infinite. If we always give priority to the human problems, we will never run out of human problems to address. And so therefore, what you're really saying in making such an argument for the paramount importance of the problems humans have is that animal problems will never be addressed. They will never be the top priority. So you can imagine in our lives, just within the last 10, 15 years, which I hope everyone watching this video can remember less than 15 years, not having to dig back into ancient history or a whole century of history. If somebody had said to you in the year 2001, well, we'll deal with veganism and animal rights and ecology after we deal with the consequences of the terrorist attack in New York City in September of 2001. After we deal with that, then we'll deal with veganism, animal rights, and ecology. Somebody might have said a few years later, after we deal with the war in Iraq, then we'll deal with veganism, animal rights, and ecology. If somebody says after, the civil war in Syria, after Libya, after the Arab Spring, this is not even mentioning, there are numerous, crises, short-term conflicts I could list here that, of course, really do completely dominate people's lives. I'm not saying with any cynicism here. There are people in Syria in the middle of the civil war who are so much living in a war zone that they can't possibly think about these issues, right? So, it's not that there's no truth whatsoever to what some of these people are saying. It's not as if they're cynically manipulating the situation to support their agenda. However, their agenda is flawed, and it's flawed for more reasons than one. One reason, as already mentioned, is if you give the priority to so-called human issues in this way, then we will never address these issues because we are never going to run out of crises that relate to human rights, etc. And the second is that it is completely false to say that veganism is an animal issue, right? It is. This is human politics. I mean, ecology is entirely in the sphere of human politics. We cannot leave it up to the animals to preserve the forests or write ecological policy. Ultimately, human beings with guns and taxes draw lines on a map and decide where there's a national park and where the trees are going to be cut down as part of the forestry industry, where the farm starts and where the farm stops, which farms can put how much pollution into the rivers. That's 100% a human issue for humans to question, for humans to find answers to, for humans to resolve. Now, of course, the problems with human diet and human health, these are also human issues. But really what we're talking about, what we're projecting as animal rights, is an entirely human concept, an entirely human affair. It's one way human beings explain to each other a problem human beings have to deal with. I hate to say it, but look, guys, whether you're talking about domesticated animals that are living inside people's condominiums, or you're talking about stray dogs living wild on the streets of a city, either way, it's a human problem we're talking about. To a very limited extent are we ever talking about the dogs as such, right? So it's flawed in all these ways in war. There's no way. I mean, look, veganism is ineluctably and inextricably part of ecology, and ecology is inextricably and ineluctably a part of veganism. We cannot disentangle the two. We can't separate the two. And ecology is absolutely the domain of human beings making tough decisions, right? And of course, the ethical argument, it's entirely on the human side of the equation, and so too is the health side. And these are the three big foundations for veganism: ecology, ethics, and health. All right. So with all this having been said, is it effective to try to disentangle, in this particular case, vegan activism from gay rights activism? Or vice versa, in some other instance, would it or would it not be effective for vegans to try to co-opt ongoing gay rights movements, or for gay rights movements to try to co-opt veganism? The real world answer is, it depends. My girlfriend and I were just in Seattle, where the gay rights thing is so massive, it's in every window, that it really is possible that vegan politics can make progress, can get ahead, can reach an important market by basically trying to co-opt, to infiltrate, to participate in gay events. And you can imagine very well how that might work. You know, there's a gay festival or a gay parade, and you decide to pay money and have a vegan booth, do vegan outreach at the gay event. That could be totally successful, right? Now, there are other hard questions that come up with co-option and with intersectionality. What if there's an event that's for typical conservation-minded people who may be involved in hunting ducks, but they are sincerely interested in conservation and ecology? Can you, at that kind of event that includes people who hunt ducks and people who hunt moose, and may even include people selling hamburgers, but it's about ecology and conservation, can you rent a table there? Can you co-opt that? Can you participate in that? And can you come to some kind of positive outcome from doing so? And, you know, in both cases, my honest answer is here, maybe. Maybe it could be really positive for someone in Seattle to make common cause with gay rights groups. But, I mean, you know, I would say that in the same sense and with some of the same warnings as maybe it's possible to really make common cause and really cooperate with a conservationist group that's interested in conserving a particular forest. Or, I mean, you know, different ideological groups that may be, from their perspective, totally unrelated to veganism, but where you have to make the case, hey, veganism is something for you also. My fundamental principle here, it's a double-edged sword. If you believe that veganism is for everybody, then you believe that it's for right-wing people who own a truck and a rifle and go duck hunting too, right? If you believe the vegan message is for everybody, it means it's for him also, right? The guy in the truck. If you believe that veganism is for everybody, then you believe it's for, this intersectional left-wing political fringe or members of the intersectional gay rights movement also. It's for everybody. The problem is exactly the finitude of your time. How can you take the message to those people? How can you effectively use your finite time and money and leverage to move forward with the vegan movement, or indeed to create your own vegan organization, your own vegan business, your own vegan food service, whatever it's going to be? And those decisions ultimately, I think, are, in a word, strategic. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your question, Noel. If anyone else wants to ask me a question, I have a video made in response to it. $1 a month on Patreon. Hit me up.